Thank you very much, Rebecca, for being here to talk to us about restoring the world's agricultural grasslands, why and how to.
Okay, can you all hear me? Great. This is a delight. I actually didn't realize this was a class, and I'm like, oh, right, this is perfect. All right, so, and also, you know, we are forming this new school where our Department of Natural Resources, section of Natural Resources and Environment is merging with global development. And our department's still trying to figure out what it is you all do. Like, what is global development? So I would love feedback at the end. If you see ways that what you're learning about could link into some of this, that would help me to, because that's what we're looking for. Where are synergies between what you all do and what we do? All right. And thank you for that introduction. So she's basically told you, but I do sustainable, ecologically based water resource management. I usually work in flooded kind of habitats. Excuse me. All right, and I've done a lot with roadside ditches and how they actually cause flooding in our streams and rivers. Oh, you want me to wait?
We can wait.
No,
These
no, I'll
people
wait.
got an intro.
No, that's great.
We can run it again in 4 minutes.
Okay, yeah, sure. Okay, good. I'm pleased to wait. In fact, and I can ask, what does global development mean to you all? What does that mean? I mean, you're here, you guys are, I'm feeling like you guys are the major.
There we go.
Okay, you guys, this is your major. What do you want to do with it? What is it? Anybody? Yeah, Ethan.
For USAID.
You want to work for USAID? Okay, that's a hard one, right? Right now, that's a tough one. But that means helping, going into countries that are developing countries, working with farmers. Is the USAID mainly farmers? Is global development, you guys mainly focused on agriculture?
Mainly, yeah. There's some.
Tell me what the other is. If you're not doing ag in global development, what are you working on? Anybody? Mining? I don't know. I'm seriously, is it, all right, how about, is it do with education?
But
All right, I mean, how about like education in urban settings? Is that a global development issue?
Policy, economics.
Policy and economics? Policy about ag or anything?
International, like markets. And
Markets, trade. Okay. Okay, that's new to me. Okay. Policy about trade, markets. And then urban habitat settings. All right. No, guys, we realize I'm trying to learn from you how our two departments are going to meld. We don't do economics much in our department. We do policy, and we affect policy in a lot of places. And I'm really proud of what we do with policy, changing how they manage natural resource environment. Agriculture, I'm going to talk about that. Okay. All right. Well, if you think of if you hear things in this presentation where you go, oh, you know, that's interesting, and we kind of talk about that in another class, it would be helpful to me. All right. All right. It's 12:20. Do you want me to start? Okay. All right. And then because the new people came, I'm Rebecca Schneider. I'm a section chair over in Furno Hall, Natural Resources and Environment. Everything I do is around water. So I have research, teaching, and extension responsibilities, and now being chair. And it's all about sustainable, ecologically based water resource management. I've looked at what causes flooding in our streams where people's houses get washed away, and how we manage the landscape, the ditches, roadsides, and roads that run across that are a big player. I look at how groundwater, which is now what the world's depending on as a source of fresh water, interfaces with lakes and is a source of nutrients that may be driving like toxic algal blooms. I've worked in rivers and how dams affect the health of the river. So that's kind of my background. But today we're not talking about any of that. What we're talking about is the world's agricultural grasslands. So I divided the talk into 4 parts. The first one is the context and framing. And I'll be interested to hear, since you guys do agriculture, whether this is all new to you or, oh yeah, we learned all that. Then I'm going to talk about our whole program on soil and grassland restoration. Then the importance of a reference system when you do restoration. And then finally, our most recent work is on litter and hay production. Okay. All right, the deal is this. If you took the entire land surface of the earth and mapped it out, about 3,900 million hectares would be forest, tropical or temperate, or up near above the up in Canada. Another 5,000 are deserts and glaciers. A small part is settlements, infrastructure. But 4,600 million hectares of the world used to be grasslands. Almost 99% of it have been turned into agriculture. So an entire biome of the world used to be grasslands, and we converted that to agriculture. Agriculture now is basically all that same area. It's 38% of the total land surface of the earth. And that's what we use now to grow food for the world. And this, about 2/3 of it is pastures, they're brownish red, and 1/3 is crops. But that same land surface is severely degraded. Land degradation is estimated to affect greater than 25% of the total global land area, with erosion, poor soil quality, hard to grow things on it, physical chemical changes. And in these two maps, very high severity is bright red, high is orange, brown is moderate. And you're looking at most of the world's surface has been degraded, and it's mostly where agriculture has occurred. So there's a real bunch of great reasons why we need to start looking at agricultural grassland restoration. Recent attention has been drawn to food security. We need to increase food production across the world, and to adequately feed more than 9 billion people by 2050, we have to almost double the amount of food production on soils that are not as healthy. A lot of attention was drawn to the fact that grasslands are actually the key place we could do a lot of carbon sequestration if we healed them up. Recent attention's been put onto grassland biodiversity, like we've had 70 huge losses in grassland species of birds because of their degradation and changes to them. That all came out in Science in the past 3 or 4 years from the Laboratory of Ornithology here at Cornell. And I do water, and the fact is 70% of all the world's fresh water is used for irrigation. And even though 4 billion people around the world don't have fresh water like for an entire month every year or more, 70% of the water is going to irrigation, not to drinking water, and half of that never makes it to the crop. So if you're going to do one thing better about water scarcity, we'd be looking at irrigation and water use for crops. And when you have unhealthy soil, it requires more water to grow the same amount of crops. And these are just the trees where we work in northern China. Everyone has an irrigation drip tube to it. It can't grow without it. Now, the key thing we figured out is that grasslands evolved to be functional in low rain environments, less than 500 millimeters of rain a year. So in here, the yellow-green are all semi-arid habitats, okay? Very little rainfall. And this was actually identified as a biome that is evolved to deal with little rainfall. This is by Whitaker, who actually came from Corson a long time ago. Here's our grasslands across a range of temperatures, but very little rainfall, and yet they were incredibly productive. So think about our Great Plains, 60 million bison before humans got there, Europeans moved in, all the rodents that lived underground, all the birds, the insects. If you think of Africa and all the wildebeest and all the different, they're all grazing on grasslands where there's no rain, incredibly productive. So it's like, what have we done to agriculture that they're not able to be that resilient anymore? And that's the key. So when you look at that biome, grasslands, they have evolved all these mechanisms to do great when there's no rainfall. One, having a dense canopy reduces evaporative water loss. Litter on the ground insulates the ground and prevents evaporation. We did one of only about 30 studies that have ever been done showing that the grass captures dew at night, so they don't just rely on rain. In fact, they can get almost 50% of the water they lose every day in transpiration back at night in dewfall. There's almost nothing studied on this. It's like, oh my God, this is a key to the whole thing. And the rich organic soils are really good at capturing and storing water. And by rich organic soils, what I mean is soils, when the leaves decompose and the roots decompose, it forms like a sponge, an organic sponge. And some of you probably have cellulose sponges sitting by your sink, same thing. And when it does rain, that water gets captured and held there. And then it's there weeks later when it still hasn't rained or anything. Those soils are actually a special kind of soil called a mollisol. That's why they're dark brown, really deep down, all that decomposing leaves, roots, stems. And mollisol soils are the green ones. around the entire world. That's where the grasslands, temperate grasslands occurred. So what do we do to that? Why can't, if they have these great big sponges for soil and the grasses capture all this rain, why are they so degraded? So the best documented study occurred in our Great Plains. These are all dark brown or the mollisol soils of the central United States, which is our food belt. But what we did in the 1800s, 4 things happened at the same time, 3 or 4 things. One, John Deere, and if you ever drive around here, there's these John Deere tractors. Everybody has them. They're front yards. They're green. John Deere tractors. He invented the stainless steel plow. It was the first time that they could go through a grassland, which had these tons of roots, and rip up the roots. Before they couldn't really clear the grasslands, but with that stainless steel plow, he sold 10,000 in like 20 years. At the same time, President Abraham Lincoln created the Homestead Act, which was you can have 160 acres in the Midwest, but you have to clear it totally in 5 years and then it's yours. The pressure to clear all that land for free was incredible. And the steam tractor was invented, and so now you didn't even have to push the plow. It was just the whole thing came together to clear away all the grasslands. And the reason we know this so well is that's when the camera was first invented and they start taking photographs. And so they documented the dark organic soil blowing away. Without the roots to hold in place, all of our rich organic spongy soils blew away. And there's iconic photos, which I know you've seen some of them, of sand piling up out west due to erosion because we got rid of the system that was holding in place and grabbing the rainfall. And this is actually from North Dakota. Most people think the Dust Bowl occurred right in the middle near Kansas. It was all the way from Mexico to Canada. 16 million acres destroyed in Texas by erosion. We did that to the grasslands. Now, what's interesting is we were documenting that in the Dust Bowl, but elsewhere in the world over the past hundreds to thousands of years, the same phenomenon was happening gradually. We were destroying that living soil surface. All right, that was so critical to make it resilient with all these animals, all the biodiversity. This is now happening right now down in the Pampas, the grasslands of South America because of cattle ranching. All right, so that's the background. That here are these systems that were evolved, perfectly adapted to no rainfall, resilient, all these great things happening, and we basically destroyed them to grow food. And now we have to irrigate them, we have to add chemicals and nutrients, and it didn't need all that prior. All right, so we started working on soil restoration. We were asked to come to northern China, up near Mongolia. The system looked like a desert, which, believe me, when I'm a wetland scientist and I'm like, why am I here? And it only rained 200 millimeters. That's where we were working. And here the wind blows the soil, and villagers have been putting in these rice into the ground in squares just to stop the erosion for 50 years. Nothing's growing. But while we're there, it rained a centimeter, half an inch, and it rained 10 days later, another half inch. And gradually we began to, and there was fog on the cars every morning. It's like, you know, you have water. This isn't a grass, I mean, this isn't a desert. You have water, but it's not, this is 98% sand, no organic matter. There was nothing in the system to hold it when it happened. It's like, oh, maybe we can somehow get the system, jumpstart the system by adding organic matter back. So that was our goal, identify the recipe, as I put it, a recipe and steps for jumpstarting revitalization of these severely desertified soils. So people have been using in agriculture amendments for thousands of years, right? We have all kinds of nutrients, all kinds of things, manure into soil. So amendments are not new, but we needed something that was going to last several years. Like what I say is, if I put iceberg lettuce in the ground outside, it's gone tomorrow. I mean, it's like tissue paper, it's gone. So we said, no, we need something pretty solid. We use wood chips. We're going to put wood chips in the soil. They won't decompose right away. And we did a bunch of experiments here at Cornell with students and figured out, okay, yep, wood chips will hold water. So if we put it in the soil, it will definitely hang onto the water. And then we created treatments over in Ningxia, China. This is the control soil, pretty bad. This is where we put wood chips in the top 20 centimeters. We had a treatment that was just mulch on the surface, like wood chips piled on the surface. And then one where we had wood chips underground and this lattice of wood over top, because one of our researchers, Dr. Steve Moriarty, has been working at Cornell's Arnott Forest for years, looking at just to have a little bit of wood as a shelter and cools, like shades the soil. We said, all right, we'll try it. And that was our site where we were working 2011 through 2017. And all these trees have drip irrigation tubes. So anything out there has got drip irrigation tubes, and those piles are our treatments. And we showed, so this is 1 month, this is soil moisture content, and it rained once. The black line is soil moisture in the control, so just the pure raw soil. The purple is where there was mulch on the surface, so it captured more rain, but then it dropped back down and was still higher than the control. Blue is our wood chips, and green is the wood chips plus the branches over top. So now we have captured up to 14% more rainfall, maintaining a much higher soil moisture over a whole month. So we can do it. It's like, okay, we have a way to get this system to start grabbing that rain when it comes. What was critical was that we began to have life in the soil. This is microbial respiration, just one measure of how healthy the soil is. Here's a control. The surface mulch was a little bit higher, but there's nothing under the soil for respiration, for bacteria or fungi to use. But both our wood chips and our wood chips branches were all starting to develop the soil, heal the soil up. And then our big success was 1 year later, after we put it in. This is July, it hadn't rained, and we have moss and mushrooms growing under the branches in the middle of the desert, because all we needed to do was capture that moisture and start the cycle of life. And then in 2016, animals were moving in, and so we had hedgehogs and lizards living there, and we were starting to restore this desertified system. So we had a method. Our colleagues in China are still working on other elements of the recipe, like do we need a little nutrients because it's just sand, using manure. We're working on expanding the recipe. But hang on one sec. It was challenging to get over there to work. And we said we need to find a place in the Great Plains that we can start testing out these same things. We picked an area up in North Dakota that has very comparable climate to where we worked in China. So they're a bit healthier. We worked with the USDA, individual Dr. Liebig, who said, I don't think you're going to see anything. Our soils are pretty good. But we installed similar treatments over a 1 month period. This is soil moisture content. This is different rain events. And what you're seeing is the same thing. Here's the control without wood chips. Here's wood chips and wood chips plus the branches over top. And even there, we were able to, we can capture more water and have it available to plants and things. All right, so we're building a way to restore all these areas. But we began to ask the question, then, well, are we, like in China, are we restoring? Are we just enhancing, revitalizing? What are we doing? What's the goal? And we said, what is the reference? So in the United States, I love this photo. It was taken in 1957. And this gentleman is pointing to where the top of the soil was prior to the Dust Bowl. That's how much erosion occurred. That's the entire organic layer is gone. This is all still intact. And it's like, this is what it should, whatever's here is what it should probably be like. But people are growing things down in here, deep into the substrate. And many of the people we talk to don't realize how degraded that system has become. And so we said, well, we need some kind of reference. And the science of restoration is in its infancy and growing like crazy. We're still in the decade of ecosystem restoration for the United Nations. More and more studies are coming out. I think it's a field to be in for the coming decades. It really is. We've got to restore the planet. And so people are starting to publish, like, what do we use for a reference? Ancient grasslands. Some call them old growth grasslands, guide ambitious goals. And we said, well, what are our reference systems? So native grasslands remnants can be used as like a benchmark system. We don't have anything in China where we work. We have not found anything to work with. But here, some are preserves, Sometimes you find cemeteries where there's tombstones from like the 1600s and 1700s and the soils next to them are pretty much intact. Sometimes fence posts have intact soils along them, you can kind of see. And so we started looking for remnants to say, give us some kind of sense. Now, the Society of Ecological Restoration says you're not using that reference as, here, we're going to make it look like that. The purpose is to say, what were the processes happening in that system, that remnant, that made it sustainable, that you want to try and get back? So it's really a tool to understand what are the key things, and then, like, how much organic matter should be there. So we did a first analysis of remnants in Nebraska, working with the soil health lab here as a master's student. This is what a healthy soil looked like. This is a remnant, and this is about 100 meters away in a farm field where the farmer is very proud of his productivity. And so we looked at all different parameters. And so now soil health is measured not just by how much nitrogen's in there or how much phosphorus. You look at, is it alive? Is anything respiring there? Are there fungi in there that make these little aggregates that keep it from eroding? This is actually very more acidic, very, very low respiration rates. And so this farmer doesn't realize this system's not doing well. You might be still getting pretty good yields, but you're adding tons of fertilizer, you're having to add chemicals to it, and it's like, oh, it's the beginning of the cycle of degradation. So this reference soil gave us a bunch of information, and we realized, okay, this is what we need as a diagnostic system. It's kind of like if you go to the doctors, they take your blood work, maybe not you guys, you're all young, but by my age, they're taking your blood work and compared to like what a healthy person looks like. You know, your sodium's too high and your cholesterol, right? All those parameters. And that's what we're using these remnants for. What is your soil, agriculture or rangeland soil, how's it compared to the remnant that's still there now? But there's even more important things. It's teaching us about the underlying biophysical processes. It's our educational tool. You can look at that and see, oh, no, my soil doesn't look like that. My grassland's not that healthy. Turns out there are unique microbes that only are still alive in remnants. They're very scarce out in the landscape. And yet, we're doing a lot with like planting for restoration, like real pretty, some of these really pretty purple flowers that occur, they won't grow because the only place they get what are called actinomycorrhizae are in the remnants. That's the only place they're still found. And people are putting in hundreds of dollars to buy seeds so they can plant that real pretty one, then it never grows because they don't have the right microbes. So actually, now they become a source, and we need a reservoir of those. We have to me, it's like, oh, these need to be protected as we go forward because we may have to take a little clump of that and put it into a restoration program to get the things to grow that we care about. They're also a refugia for wildlife and stepping stones. We haven't studied this much yet, and we're just at the beginning. So one initiative is to create this network, an old growth grasslands network of data on where the remnants are and what they look like. We have a primitive website. We're collecting data. We use literature first. So we have found about 400 papers starting from 1910, pre-Dust Bowl. And there's some pretty powerful data. Some of them have, like this one from 1938, it has texture, organic matter content, moisture holding capacity, nutrients. It's like, oh, wow. They picked what they called a virgin grassland. Some of them have this incredible plant data, and this is what was mind-opening for me. These systems used to be highly diverse. These are all different plant species, hundreds and hundreds of flowering plants, not grasses, that were growing in with the grasses. And what's cool is, over the course of the summer, if you care about pollinators, right, they need something to get their nectar from. This is from April to October, and every one of these lines is when one species is putting out flowers. There are cool data sets about how diverse these systems were, how many plants, when they flowered. So we have 400 data points with varying amounts of data, but show some really cool things. These were giant butterfly gardens. And some of it is not very complete data, and we're trying to find out where are the remnants now. And so we've been doing soil sampling campaigns. This was our first Nebraska work. All these dots are where our literature is. We went to North Dakota and collected data up there. Right, this summer people are in northern Texas. We work a lot with the Nature Conservancy. And we have another group that's going to start up near Oklahoma. And we got some data from Chicago in a tiny remnant grassland that's near a McDonald's, but the James Woods Preserve. So we're trying to build these as outreach hubs to start educating people, giving them the tools of, here's what the healthy grassland looks like. Let's diagnose your soil. So we pay farmers, give us your soil. We'll show you what it looks like. We have this great partner, which when you do extension, the Land Grant University, and the goal of the Ashley School, in my mind, is that we work as scientists with stakeholders in communities to solve their problems and then extend the information out. So you don't just do the research with your students and present it at a conference, you find out who cares. Well, the Central Grasslands Roadmap Initiative has 250 organizations, a bunch of bird groups, ranchers, native tribes, National Foundation of Wildlife, a whole bunch of groups. And so they're working with us, and we're representing soil health to try and get this information out. It's working in part. Okay, now the last piece. So when we study these remnants, we go out, and at first we only just collected some soil. And then we started saying, we're not getting the whole picture here. Now you put down a quadrat sampler, you cut all the biomass down to the ground, take it, we're gonna figure out how much plants are growing there, biomass, what the species are. And then we scrape and collect all the litter that has built up over time. And we began to realize, oh, there's a lot of litter there. Then we take our soil cores. And when in North Dakota in 2024, we sampled it in July, it hadn't rained in 3 weeks and it was 100 degrees. It was intense. But what we noticed is where we sampled remnants, there would be like this much litter, leaves, decomposing leaves, built up on the surface, and it was cool and moist underneath there. Everywhere else we looked was dry and cracked soil. It was 100 degrees. We go, well, wait a minute, where's all the litter going? And we realized everybody was haying. Now, in December of 2024, this report comes out from the United Nations, the global threat of drying lands. Over 75% of the Earth's land became drier between 1990 and 2020. That's hugely important. I mean, that's how you start desertification. That's how you get to looking like Mars. It's like, what's driving it? But we are looking at, if you have litter laying there, it's moist and cool. Hay production, so we start looking into hay production. Hay production is you're growing food to feed cattle and livestock in the winter when you can't grow it, right? That's what it's about. And they grow a field, an old field, sometimes next to the road, or they actually plant stuff and they cut it. Then there's a process called tedding where you fluffinate it into a row and let it dry. And then you collect it up in different sized bales. And this is North Dakota when we were there. This is huge. In New York State, hay production is the third biggest cash crop. It's that big. Many places hay, not just once, but 3 to 6 times every year. They're cutting away all the foliage. And when the machine goes by, it scrapes up that foliage and all the litter. And it's like, oh, we're taking away this mechanism that the system has to stay cool and moist. Of course, it evolved to do that. In the United States, it's a huge industry, 122 million tons, on 50 million acres, sometimes 3 to 6 times a year. It was a huge export product, but right now things are, in chaos about that. With 2.5 tons per acre, worth $18 billion. And so we started just last summer doing some experiments. Well, how much litter? I mean, we're not going to be able to say, stop haying. It's not going to happen. That's how we feed all the livestock. So can I get them to not hay as much? Well, how much do I want them to leave? So we were doing some experiments. These are soil cores with different amounts of litter on top. And we monitored soil moisture content over a period of this is 3 weeks. And the bottom lines are anything less than 50% litter cover, it evaporates super fast because the water can just go right up between the pieces of leaf litter. But if we can keep above 50% litter, we can keep the soil moist and dry significantly. So right now, that's as much as we've done. In my mind, I mean, our whole recommendation then is, where I want to go with it is if we can just say, lift the tines from the tractor, this much and give me 50% litter left on the ground, I can save you a ton of water, which makes your system healthier. That's where I want to go. I'm working with some students in our restoration class. So I have a 1-credit restoration class, and we're trying to figure out, I know nothing about tractors, zip. I don't know what they look like. I mean, can they raise them? I think they can raise them, and you can raise a lawnmower. So in order to come up with what the guidelines are, and then we'll have to test it and show, yeah, this can make a difference. But it's, you can see the scale of the importance of this. It's one of the 3rd biggest cash crop in New York State, 20 whatever millions of money and all, and they're doing it without even thinking about what the impact is. And it's kind of like roadside ditches. Nobody even thinks about it. I see hay bales all the time, but now I'm like, oh, that's not good. All right, so you just got, and we have worked with tons of people. Dr. Steve Morelli is the main partner on this in Cornell, but we have worked with our colleagues in the Ninja Forestry Institute and Southwest University. Right now, we're working with University of North Texas. Tons of people and students changing through time, but it's great and very, very rewarding. So that's a dozen years of work with a lot of people summarized in 30 minutes. But I believe, I mean, and it's all about water as far as I'm concerned. Other people are focused on the birds and biodiversity. Carbon, you can see now why carbon sequestration is such a main focus, because those soils used to be totally organic matter. It's gone. Get them healthy and they'll start building up carbon organic matter. That's it. They'll sequester it out of the air. It's like, oh, 40% of the land surface of the earth. We could do a lot. So there's all these great reasons to focus on the world's agricultural grasslands. And it's not rocket science. It's just we've forgotten. We've just lost track of what they should be and how they function. All right, and so that's my question back to you all. You know, does this resonate with global development as I try and find synergies? I don't know what you do, or where would you link into this? Where would be, you know, we have tribal groups in that grassland center. You know, we have different communities involved, ranchers for sure. I've worked with ranchers. I've not touched the economics of this. I have no clue even how to do that. I think that's why I don't have the right tools to get more money. I'm missing some things. So I'd love to hear questions or thoughts about it. Are you learning about agricultural health in developing countries? And I'm curious. Let's start with that one. In global development, do they talk about assessing agricultural system health?
Hi, my name is Unique Mackey. I'm an MPS and GDev scholar. And I had a couple of questions for you. Well, to answer your original question, like, is this GDev? Yes. You asked earlier, GDev is basically anything. And like literally.
Okay.
I had a couple of questions. The first one is, where do you think that the soil, I think it's the one that's deeper beneath the earth, that we need to help maintain, like
The organic layer, you mean?
Yeah.
The organic layer?
yeah, where would it have settled? Like, have you considered like the potentially like locating that and citing that as like places to send these people
Okay.
to do their agriculture? And then the second question would be, how long are you expecting the restoration process to take, given
Okay.
this model that you're creating?
Okay, cool. All right, first of all, in where it's well documented, our Great Plains, because they took photos and all, and they've been monitoring erosion since, and I have a bunch of graphics I can show you. It's still eroding, but not like that. It blew away, and when it gets into the upper atmosphere, it could be anywhere. Like, we get dust storms here that are dust sometimes from Africa that blow, so some of these move way into the atmosphere. When you get rid of the roots, some of it washes away, so water erosion is definitely a piece of the problem, especially in the Great Plains. When they do have rain, it'll wash it away. Huge issue. But also it oxidizes. I mean, you leave it out in the sun, UV light, and it breaks apart and just decomposes very rapidly, as opposed to being protected underground and being added to. So nobody really feels like there's, a pool of organic matter sitting somewhere from there. There are other, wetlands accumulate organic matter a ton. So there are places, and that's why they drain wetlands, because then, there's all that rich soil to grow something on. So that particular Great Plains soil is not available. What's interesting is Dr. Harold Vianez and some people here have shown so much phosphorus is needed to grow, like corn here, right? So much fertilizer gets put on that. Well, where does that come from? It's very cool that it used to come from various places, one of which were like guano on sea islands, where all these birds would nest for 1,000 years and the guano would build up. That was a whole mining industry for phosphorus. the bison, the 60 million bison that they killed out west, which was definitely in part to try and remove the indigenous people who depended on them, was in part because it was phosphorus, it was a source of phosphorus. And there are photos of things bigger than this room of bones of bison being trapped, put on railroad tracks, and out brought to the east as a source of money and phosphorus. And then there's a great book called The Devil's Element, which showed that when phosphorus in Europe started getting rare for fertilizer, they began to dig up the graveyards of all the soldiers who died in the world wars because they were big deposits of phosphorus. So we have exported phosphorus out of the Midwest, and some of it's like the soils here are getting saturated with some of that. It's like we have very high levels in some of our soils. So depending on which chemical you're interested in, there are places where they know where it went, but the organic matter itself has decomposed and gone away. Okay, that was the first question. What was the second one?
The second was asking about the timeline that you have.
Right.
How long it takes.
Right. So let me think. In the case of China, the pictures I showed you, it's reached what's called a new stable equilibrium. It's not going to restore. It just can't. There's maybe 20,000 years or something, but it's just so barren. There's nothing to get started from. So it's gone from up there down here, and that's why we're jump starting it, trying to move it up. In a lot of farm fields like where they are saying, let's let this go back and let it go fallow and just restore it. Even after 35 years to 50 years, it's not even half of what, this is all the studies that I remember, of what it should be. So it could take, and those papers about ancient grasslands and all, it could take 500 years to restore it to get actually what it was. Now, to get it to being healthy and somewhat functional, if you add things, that's if you just let it sit. What we're saying is, well, can we add a recipe of things to get that even better off? In the restoration world, there's a Society of Ecological Restoration. They love young people. Like I said, it's a growing field. There's a lot of effort to really start restoring things with amendments, putting in plants, bringing in the whole seed mixes to put them in. And they're making, we're accelerating the timeline. But like I said, some things don't work. Oh, you don't have the right soil. So it's still trial and error, and it's not, we're getting there.
Any other questions?
Okay, anybody in here do the economy part of your job, GDev, of what you guys do? So I need guidance on that. Like, okay, where do I throw economics at this? I have to somehow find somebody, because I think that's going to be the hook that I'm going to get people willing to start doing restoration. But you all take micro, right? Macro X? Never took it, no clue. Well, I hope it gives you something to think about. Love to see you over at Resources. I teach restoration. Somebody got a question?
Not exactly economics, but can you share some insights into how this affects like communities that live in the areas you work?
Wait, I'm having a little trouble hearing you because of the sound. Let me come back closer. What?
Can you share some insights into how this affects the communities, the members of the communities in the areas you work, and what the potential use for the land,
Right.
how the land use changes?
All right, I got a great one. Does this go up? Yeah, all right. It's all right, don't worry about it. I'll just explain it. So Dr. Chris Barrett, working he's affiliated with Global Development, do they have pens? He and do we have anything? Okay, never mind, we don't have anything. It's okay. What they showed is they went and looked at a chronosequence of communities in Africa. And a chronosequence means looking at something through time, looking at it, you want to look back in time 100 years. What was that like? But you can't, so you look at it through space. So they found communities that started agriculture like 300 years ago, then 100 years ago, and they call it the soil poverty spiral. And the longer the community had been doing agriculture, the more degraded the soil was, the less yield in crops, and the poorer the community was, down to total poverty. It's a spiral that keeps going, because it's kind of like with livestock and ranchers. They tell me, look, I don't want to have to overgraze, but I can't make any money unless I overgraze because it's not worth enough. And so they force the system into a degrading spiral just to make enough money until it's too unhealthy and then you can't grow anything. And that soil poverty spiral is a key issue with communities left poor. And then that lands, it either gets so degraded that you can't grow much. Goats seem to be, I mean, they're very destructive, and then people abandon it, especially when it becomes desertified. So entire parts of our world are becoming that. The stats are scary. It's like, no, we got to get it back to where it's self-sustaining, right? I mean, it used to be incredible to think 60 million bison, butterfly gardens, rodents, insects, the whole Great Plains, and Africa, and the Mediterranean, and northern China. It's like, oh, okay, we did that because we didn't know any better. And I tell people, look, I'm an ecologist in what I do, and it's my religion. I believe in it so much. I have 2 kids, had them late in life. I would dry up any river necessary to save them, whatever it takes. And I'm an ecologist. I mean, endangered species, too bad. And I know what it's like. I was like, I realize what it would take when communities need to take care of their own. It's like, it's not going to be about saving that land for 10 years from now or 5. It's going to be what I do today. And so that's why when you think about governance, that's why you need local people to be engaged, give them the resources they need, but somebody bigger has to say, hey, we'll give you the resources. We want to have those rare species. We want to have all that, but you don't have the wherewithal, so we'll give it to you so that you won't overgraze the landscape. And that's where governance issues for you all, top down versus bottom up, which works better. It's usually a mix of the two. But good questions. For what it's worth, guys, I've been doing water and I teach this. We have the solutions to save the planet. I absolutely believe that. The biophysical, like, oh, don't hay as much, let the organic matter get back. Stop putting dishes into streams. It's not, we have them, but it's getting people to change their behavior. So it's half biophysical, half behavior. And that's where you all come in. If you do governance, economics, behavioral studies, how do you get people to change what they're doing? And this is what my expertise is. I can figure out those processes. That's what I do, and I'm figuring them out. I'm telling you, we can restore all these grasslands. I want to make a set of profiles of intact grasslands for different climates that we can apply to China because it's so close. This is the best thing we have. Is here's your remnant. What your remnant? I can do that, but I can't get people to change behavior. But see, if you guys work in that realm, that's what we need. Well, it's 1 o'clock. Thank you all very much. It's been a joy.